I am so excited for our guest today. She went from orphanage to millionaire to motivational speaker. Our guest today, Maggie Cook. I'm so excited to have her. We're just going to watch a quick clip here of her background.
My name is Magdalena de la Cruz Garcia. I am the founder of Maggie Salsa LLC. This is a company that I started with a gift of $800 when I was homeless, and a company that sold a Campbell soup in 2015.
When I first tasted Maggie salsa, I was blown away. It was awesome product. I could tell it was fresh. I could tell it was made with quality ingredients and knew that it would be a great product for Walmart.
I am from Mexico, and this was life in an orphanage. And yes, these are my 68 brothers and sisters. Ever since I can remember, I mostly worked in construction, digging ditches, cutting trees, and gathering topsoil from the mountains. At times, we had no food for weeks, so some of my brothers and I resorted to hunting with our bare hands. We basically hunted at night using spotlights and nets to catch our prey.
Welcome, Maggie. How are you today?
Good, how are you? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. You know, as I told you before, I've met a lot of amazing people in the world, but after watching you on a webinar and hearing about your story, I'm just so thrilled to be able to have you on here today. And I would love to, for you to tell your story of, how you got started in your background.
Do you want me to go back to the orphanage life?
Yes, definitely. Where you started and where you are today. And I have lots of questions for you, but brief history about yourself.
Yes, well, there's no brief there because there's just so much, but I come from a background where I was born in the mountains of Michoacan, Mexico. And I was born in an orphanage, as you saw, and my 68 siblings that I live with. And it wasn't a good environment to grow up because there was just only two caregivers, and there was a lot of abuse in many different ways. And I experienced a life of, suffering in such a deep extreme that the only thing that I had was my mind. And I would always visualize myself as the super successful woman with long hair, except for I have short hair, dressed up in the suit with heels behind a mahogany desk with my name on it. And these things I came up with, even though I didn't know anything outside the barbed wire fence. And so I took my mind and created my escape. I dug a little cave in the canyon there, and that was my secret hiding place. And I just continuously visualize, and it's really interesting because some people are stuck in life, but they have the opportunity to come out. Well, when you're a child and you're in a place in a circumstance that you can't get out, you have to just live through it. But it's all about the mentality that you live things through it that makes you come out winning in the end. And mine was a mentality of hope, of wanting something better. And so when I was in junior high and high school, in junior high, actually, I was always thinking about what can I do to get out of here? What could be my ticket out of this place? And I remember watching Michael Jordan play on one of those black little TVs on my principal's office. And I asked him if I could stop and watch him play, every time I had a break. And he said, yes. So I began to see his moves and I began to apply them. And I began to play basketball, and I would play basketball in this dirt court at the orphanage that we made up. And I became so good that I did things out of the ordinary, like covering my eyes, dribbling the ball, and having someone, tell me left, right, stop. And became so good that by the time I was in high school, I got recruited by the Mexican national team from Mexico City to come play basketball for them. And I thought that was my aha moment, like my ticket out. And I waited for them for 3 months, didn't hear from them. And one day I went out in the orphanage and played football with my brothers. And one of my brothers, Julio, passed me a really long pass, and I caught it up in the air. But my body shifted and I fell on the ground. And I got up and I felt like somebody had punched me in my gut, but I could get up so easily. And I was like, well, there's something wrong here. And I started feeling my body, and I realized that something wasn't right on my shoulder. So I went to our caregiver who was a doctor, and first thing he said, he looked at me and he pulled my shoulders back and he said, "Your dreams are over." And I was very emotional and I cried, but I just put my fist like this and I said, "No, they're not over. If something like this happens, that means that something better's got it. There must be something better's going to happen." And it really hit the third day after that happened because the Mexican national team called and I couldn't go. But the really amazing thing that happened was that my parents took a bus to the US to tour the US to get raise funds for the orphanage. And we happened to be invited to a picnic in West Virginia. And so we stopped. I remember going into the picnic and I remember seeing this old basketball court outside, and I saw a basketball. So my brothers and I ran and we started to play. We went back and forth, back and forth. And at that picnic, there was the coach of the University of Charleston, and she saw me play and she told my caregiver, "Wow, who is she? You know, I want her to come play for me on a scholarship." And that's really the reason that I'm here today, speaking to you today. And it's interesting because some people believe sometimes, like if they hear something from an authority figure, such as a doctor, that you only have so much to live or your dreams are over. If I would have believed them, I would have not played that day and I would have never been seen. But because of the way that I had this mentality of, you know, I don't care what's happened in the past, I'm just going to keep moving forward. I'm going to do the best that I can. And then this huge opportunity presented itself and I was able to manifest great things. I came to college, I graduated with a degree, and my degree was in interior design from West Virginia, and I played basketball on scholarships, and I also played other sports on scholarships as well to pay for my education, which was amazing. And so when I graduated college, I graduated with interior design and I couldn't get a job because in West Virginia, it was so hard. I think there was two companies that were interior design firms and I couldn't get a job. So I was homeless. And I was homeless first, living out of my car, and then my engine blew up. And then I was walking with my bags through the woods, and I would sleep in the woods, and I would I would walk through the city, but I never knew I was homeless because I lived in the woods growing up until somebody found me. But the reason why I feel like I became homeless is because my father told me, our caregiver said to me, that I would never amount to anything, that I would die in prison and with AIDS because I came out to him. And so I never contacted them. I never contacted anybody because I didn't want anybody to feel like his prophecy was fulfilled. So I just kind of stuck it out until somebody found me on the street and said, "Oh my gosh," from the university. She says, "What are you doing? You know, what the heck are you doing? I'm going to get you a place to stay." She got me a place to stay. Within 4 weeks, I believe, I was entered into a salsa contest, fresh salsa contest for the state of West Virginia. The reason why I was entered in that salsa contest was through friends, because when I was in college, I used to make fresh salsa pico de gallo for them. And they would tell my teachers, and my teachers would have me bring it to class. So every class we had salsa, a salsa party. And so it became very popular. So people knew about it. So I got entered. I competed against, I think, 15 people, and they all brought their cooked salsas, and I brought fresh pico de gallo, and I blew up the contest. I won by unanimous vote, and everybody was around me. "Where can we buy this stuff? How can, you know, where do you sell it? How much is it?" And I'm like, I just came out of being homeless. I mean, I don't know anything. I don't have anything. And I was at that contest when a little miracle happened, because after everybody it kind of died out and everybody kind of went to their own, there's this man, you know, when you're in a place where somebody's looking at you so much that you feel their energy, that they're looking at you. Well, he was on my left and he was dressed up in a suit. And when everybody kind of went away, he came up to me and says, "I've been watching you and I see that you have a fire and a passion, and I want to do something for you." And he pulled out $800 out of his wallet, and he said, "I'm going to do something for you with one condition. And that condition is that one day you pay it forward, that when you become successful, you're able to pay it forward." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." You know, they were the best well spent $800 of my life. I'm telling you that, because I took those $800 and I started making product, reinvesting. I would have a big stack of $1 and $5 bills and wave it around thinking I'm a millionaire,
Mhm.
and people thought I was nuts. And so my journey started there, but there's a lot of things that happened that I had to overcome, being the fact that I'm a Latina, a minority in business, and part of the LGBTQ community. And it just, I had so many challenges, not only in business, but with people. But I was able to overcome those challenges because I focused on three things. And the three things that I focused was being resourceful, being resilient, and being relentless. And I think those three keys really helped me succeed in business and in life. And in 11, 12 short years, my company sold Campbell soup. It wasn't without a struggle because I didn't know the way. I wish I had somebody like me to teach me the way back then, but I learned so much, and I'm so grateful because every single one of my past challenges have been the defining moments for me for what I get to be, what I've gotten to be in the future.
Wow, what your story just I just love hearing it how how you just came from, all of that background from your orphanage. And I believe your parents were actually from the US, correct? And your dad was a doctor and then I also wanted to say that I played basketball in high school, never made it to the college level. And I also have a degree in interior design. So I thought that was a coincidence with us.
Wow.
And I think that's interesting. What do you, I could tell when that person gave you that $800, it still comes back to you. I could tell, how a little emotional there of how that impact. And it always seems that, you need people to believe in you. What do you think was the aha moment of, you know, creating salsa? Did you ever think that growing up of you talked about having a vision and the energy and wanting to be something, someone, can you tell, what that feels like and how other people can relate to that?
Well, I never knew that salsa would be the thing that I'd be doing. If you told me that 20 years ago, I'd be like, "What? You're crazy, right?" But it was an opportunity, and I took that opportunity and made it into something big. And the reason why it was big is because I did the pros and cons about it, but I knew I had a niche product to market, and I knew that it was a disruptive product that initially it would get the backlash from people because they didn't understand it. But I knew that once I put that product in their mouth, that they would love it and they would talk about it. And that's literally how we started getting into stores. Aside from the big manifestation, uh, meditation manifestation that I did when we manifested the Whole Foods market, which took my company from $12,000 a year to $1.9 million a year just with Whole Foods. But it's like not giving up, it's persevering. And there's really a lot of different strategy and component to success, but I think that everybody's got their own journey, and they need to look at specifically what they've got going on in order to discern what are the best outcomes and steps that you need to take. But the big thing here is really understanding why is it that you do what you do, because if you don't know that, I don't think your purpose is aligned. I don't think your company is aligned. I don't think your team is aligned. And I think that it could be very detrimental and potentially, lose your business or lose business because of it.
So you came up with this fabulous salsa, and how did you go from selling the salt? How did you get that Whole Foods account?
So I decided that when I started the company, I was just going to make this long list of stores to call. And I did it from the smallest supermarket to the largest. And I had a couple hundred stores. And the first 90 stores that I called, it was nerve-wracking for me because I'd never done cold calling, and I literally picked up the phone and started making calls. And one after one, they told me no. 90 stores told me no, we don't want your product. Fresh salsa in West Virginia, what is this? No thanks, no thanks. And so one of the things that I realized is that if you are willing to give yourself the space, first I had to put the list away and say, okay, I'm not going to stop here because I know I have something, right? So what can I do? Okay, I'm going to change the way that I'm approaching this, right? So I decided about all the possibilities that I could approach it, including calling local food manufacturing companies that were ready to eat products and ask them, how do you get into your store, into the stores? I have this product. They're like, they're not going to listen to you. You're basically nobody. It took us 5 years to get one product in this store and that. And I was like, okay, this is not working. What's the next thing that I can do? So I literally took my list and I had like a long list of stores to call, and I turned it upside down. And at the very bottom, the largest organic retailer in the United States, to my mind, the largest organic was Whole Foods. And so I called them and I said, hey, my name is Maria Magdalena de la Cruz Garcia. I have an awesome pico de gallo de salsa. I think you guys will love it. And I left a message. So I got a call at 6 p.m. the next day. And I remember I was parked in the city center in Charleston, downtown. And this guy calls and he says, is this Maggie? And I said, yeah, this is her. She says, we heard about you, want to know more about you. When can you come? And he says, this is Whole Foods. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He says, well, tomorrow we meet at 9 a.m. Can you come? And I said, sure, I'll be there. So I literally went back to the kitchen, made salsa, drove all night, drove to their distribution center. And I remember coming into this big room and there was a lot of, it was like a U-shaped table. And there's a lot of men, all men in the room. And I was walking in with my heels and my salsa boxes. And I put them on the table and I opened the products and they started eating. And I think I got creative enough that I made them fish. I think I can't remember one type of fish that's so soft once you cook it and you put mango salsa on top of it. And they just went nuts over it. Eric gets up and says, we want your products. When can we have them? And I said, well, how much do you need? And he says, well, your first order would be 10,000 pounds of salsa. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I literally went from making 250 pounds of salsa to making to them wanting 10,000 pounds of salsa, 1 ton of salsa to be precise. And I had to go back home and reinvent the whole thing. I had to figure out how to hire employees, team members, how to change the strategies to grow, to massively grow in a very short period of time. So I didn't have any money. That was another thing. And the banks won't loan me money because I had nothing to show for. I went to many different banks. I got rejected upon rejection from many, many different companies and people. But I decided I had this idea and I said, okay, let me see if I can get a contract with Whole Foods, because if I can prove that they pay me in a week, which that's what they did, then maybe I can borrow the funds. And so I went to friends and I said, hey, look, Whole Foods pays me in a week. It's right here. Can I borrow 20 grand? Because that's what I need for cost of goods. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll help you out. And so they did. I borrowed 20 grand, bought all the cost of goods. Within the week, I got paid $40,000 from Whole Foods, gave back the 20,000, and the rest is history. And the really interesting thing that happened there was that once I was in Whole Foods, all these other supermarkets that said no came knocking on my door because they wanted the products, because now I was in Whole Foods. It's like the highest standard quality store that you can possibly be in. And so that's really what changed everything for me. And later on, the manifestation of Walmart calling us instead of us calling them. And through a process that I use by doing meditations and affirmations, that I have this state-of-the-art program that I talk about, where how to build affirmations with music and emotion and all that. And that's exactly how Walmart happened. And we literally went from a couple of different states to 38 states with Sam's, Costco's all over the country. And so it was such a wonderful opportunity to see the growth of the company just tremendously, from this little girl that grew up in this orphanage that, at times I felt I'm not worthy, and I remember driving my first nice car and I was like, I'm not worthy. Look, I'm driving this. And I grew up in this orphanage and big tire blew up and from a semi tractor trailer when I was driving. And I was like, okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I think it was the universe giving me constructive criticism. because you have to be willing to be to have that energy of worthiness, or you can be stuck and achieving more, you know, that you want, that you deserve, because you have this energy saying, okay, I'm not good enough, you know, my clients don't deserve me, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it was interesting journey.
That's so that was 2004 that you entered the salsa competition, and then
Yes.
2007 is the Whole Foods,
Yes.
and then before you sold it in 2015.
Yes.
Did you have you know, to be able to have no experience in something, and I think that's, you know, people today want to create a product, but they have a fear that, oh, there's so many other salsas out there, there's so many other products. What would you tell people who, you know, want to create a product? Did you have a business coach, or how did you get to the point of being able to negotiate with Walmart? Did you have help in that, you know, with the negotiations and the sale?
No, I didn't have a coach. I just went with my gut intuition. Um, Surprisingly, with Walmart, I had people telling me, "Oh, they're going to take advantage of you. Be careful." But the thing that I've learned from early on, when I was growing up in the orphanage, somebody would tell me, "That teacher's horrible. You're going to hate him when you're going to the next class." I would say, "Okay, I'm not going to believe anybody anything tells me. I'm going to experience it for myself." And so that's what I did with, and I love the teacher. And that's what I did with Walmart. I went in with the experience of, I'm just going to be open and accepting. First thing they asked me is, are you sure we're not giving you too many orders to spread yourself thin? Are you sure you're going to make enough money? I'm like, what? Great, you know. But I think it all stems from energy, and the way that you know that you have a good product or not. You have to be willing to do market research and testing with people, but you have to be willing to also understand that you you have this product, but you can make it big if you can differentiate, if you can make it, if you can say, okay, because the buyers will ask you, how is your product better than Mo and Joe's over there? Well, one would be pricing, two would be what's in it, right? How different it is, because every product in the world is different. And three was my story. I used my story to to help me get visibility, to say, okay, this is where I come from, this is where the salsa comes from, and everybody's got a story, but just they just don't know how to put it together. And that's actually one of the things that I teach in one of my courses. Your story is so powerful, but also knowing how to take your product from inception to make it, you know, something big that is sellable. But it has to be proven by, you know, tested by the people, that it's indeed something that they love and enjoy. Because once I knew that I put that product in people's mouths and they're like, oh my gosh, where can we get more, I was like, okay, that's a sign, right? Because I have a lot of people that come to me, a lot of entrepreneurs that tell me, you know, I have this product and I think it's the best in the world, and they end up failing their business. We didn't do business together because that's what they thought. And that's not what the clients thought, because you have to be willing to put yourself in their shoes before you even contemplate of making any kind of sell or any kind of marketing or any kind of improvement in any product. And it's an ongoing process. You see what I mean?
Right. I was this weekend stopped by our local farmers market and picked up a couple people, you know, at their booths. They were selling the fresh salsa, but not the pico type. It was more, but I thought about you of, you know, everybody has to start somewhere. And how do they go from this booth to being able to have it a national product and then to be able to sell it? And I think, you know, with your background, do you think people are born with drive? Or do you think, you know, you can, you know, just learn from it?
I think both. I think people are born with it, if especially if you have the hunger to get out of a situation, but people can learn it also. Because some people, you know, when I was growing up in the orphanage, what you saw is what you saw. And I see a lot of similarities with neighborhoods in America, low income neighborhoods, that they think that that's all there is and there's really nothing outside of it. And therefore they grow up to be whoever they saw when they were older. They grow up to be those people. and there's just so much more. And in order to, that's why there's so many inspirational books out there to teach people that are lost, or wanting to seek direction, or change direction, or pivot, especially in these times, where it could be a lot more challenging. But I really believe that there's two ways. I think there's the passion, the hunger for something more, or something, a better life. It's really the end of suffering, happiness and suffering, and they cannot both coexist at the same time in the body. So if you choose suffering, you're going to suffer, and that's not a happy life to live. But if you choose happiness, and you choose everything that you could possibly think of to get you where you want to be, then that's when the shift begins to happen. And some people just come to the realization to say, okay, enough is enough. I've had enough. I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to start right now. I don't know how, but I'm going to be open and willing and receptive to whatever comes that might be an opportunity, whether it is through a book, a seminar, an online course, a speaking event, that I can hear something, or I can get some information from someone to make a change right now. And that's really where it's born also.
Because I'm sure in your paths, you know, it's easy to give up. I'm sure. Did you ever feel like giving up, or you just had the drive that you just knew you were going to, never give up and find a way?
No, I'm very human. I felt like giving up many times. I was this close, but it was just the willingness and the determination to say, I can't give up. Look how far I've come. I've lived all this life. I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm alive. There's problems or challenges, whatever you might want to call them, but I'm here. And just that sheer, willingness to just take the next step is the difference from somebody digging a cave and stopping, and because they gave up, and then the next person coming in and digging and finding gold, right? And I really believe that when you just keep pressing on, if you're struggling, that when the big breakthrough comes, and I've had many of those breakthroughs in my life because I didn't give up, and I understand the opportunity of those, because sometimes it's life is just a test, to see if we can continue to keep going on, and make something big, impactful, that can help and change people's lives. And that's exactly what every product does. I made salsa, but I know that when people tried it, it gave them happiness. I saw them eat it. If I could give a little jar of 10-minute happiness, that was awesome for me. So every product, every service that anybody has, it's the reason why people buy is because it's serving them for something. It's relieving some pain or frustration. And that's what people need to realize, that everything that you do has purpose. That's why you have to be so focused on why is it that you do what you do, and align with that, and see how that, aligns with everything else in your business, because that generates the attraction of the people that buy your products, because they're in line with getting that relief from the certain thing that you're providing.
Yeah, that's great. So now you're currently living in Florida. Do you get back to Mexico, back to the orphanage?
I have been. I Last time I went to Mexico was less than a year ago. Of course, right now you can't travel much, because of the COVID-19 situation. But the last time that I was there, we were actually the one of the last time, not this past one, but one of the last ones that we were there. We were actually in a campaign. We were saving 31 orphan children from a drug cartel, and some of those children were sex trafficked, were taken by and these were 2 and 4 year old boys and girls, and we were able to rescue them, provide them a place to stay, a home there, and we paid the government a lot of money to have custody of them. So that's one of the things that's related to the program where I grew up in Mexico.
Wow. So that's sounds like definitely your way of giving back to, with the money that you have made. Um, and
But
s-
I'll tell you one thing. Another when he said that to me, one of the ways that I've given back is I literally took the concept of $800, but used inflation, and I've helped other people that I knew they really, really needed the money to start their businesses. So I took that $800 plus inflation, and I've helped barbecue companies, barbecue sauce companies, shampoo companies, uh, people that wanted to be authors and speakers. So that's my way of continuously paying it forward. But there's other ways, like, I talk about people pay it forward with money, with help. Some people pay it forward with your life, because one of the situations where we were in Mexico and we were rescuing these kids, I thought I was going to die. When you hear gunshots and you have to arm yourself and protect and get the military involved in the federales, I mean, I didn't think I was come out, but I was going to come out of there, but I would do it over and over again because I could not let anything happen to these kids if I had the opportunity to do something about it.
Wow, I can't even imagine having, we have two sons ourselves, older, but anything involving with children. Do you have an organization or that people can reach out to help with that?
Yes, the organization in Mexico, it's called Give New Life. And I believe if you just go on Google and type in Give New Life Orphanage, you can find information about it. They are partnered with an organization where they can receive funding for them to, but everything that I've done for them has been direct from me to them, not through that organization. But Heart Ministries, I believe it's called, the organization that you can donate because they don't have a 501c3 in America. Their 501c3 sends all the funds to them for them to be self-sustainable.
Well, we'll definitely put a link on this. What else is on your bucket list? You've done a lot and wanted to find out, what else you're working on right now.
So right now I actually just finished a 7-week program. It's the 7 proven secrets to 7 figures for successful entrepreneurs. And right now I typically work with successful entrepreneurs who are doing over 6 figures, who have the challenge of feeling overwhelmed, frustrated and alone, and trying to go from 6 figures to 7. And I help them get the skills and resources to grow their business. Like I grew my business from $800 to 231 million. And really what that means is they get to save 10 years or more of struggle so they can achieve stability in less than a year and experience true success. So that's the focus that I have right now. And that's my pivot, actually. That's my change. Online programs, because when the COVID happened, obviously all my stage talks internationally got canceled. So I'm actually finding that I'm able to reach more people this way. And it's really amazing that I have that opportunity to help people that are in the place that I was, that where nobody would help me. And I can be that source of inspiration and change and intellectual property that they can have so they can be successful quite rapidly with what they've got going on.
Yeah, that sounds like a great course. I know we've talked about it before, and I definitely need that. A lot of people are always looking how to get to that next level, a next step. Can you just share a couple things that are, in your course that you think's different? What makes your course different than, the other ones out there?
Well, the one thing that I would say is that I've walked the walk. I've done it all. So the first thing that I do is meet people where they're at, because I'm not just going to, throw the course out there and say, go through it. It's a place where you get one-on-one coaching with me throughout the weeks. And we really focus on your business. But the 7 things that I talk about, the first one is unleashing your inner hero. And this really helps you focus on who you are, what your superpower is. The next one is redefining your why. And I say that because now with these times, things have changed. Sometimes you have to tweak things around in order to make it, okay, is this still my purpose? Do I supposed to serve in a different way? The third thing I talk about in the program, the 3rd week, is called the surrender list. And it's a program where I talk about the 80-20 rule, how to get done in 10 years, what most people get done in 1. And I talk about the 3 things that you supposed to do, which is automate, eliminate, and delegate. You take all your to-do lists. I used to have many, many to-do lists, and they overwhelmed me, and they almost killed me. Almost lost my business because I thought I had so much to do, and I felt like I had to do them because I could do them best. But once you do that, once you delegate, for everything that you do, you give yourself space and balance to be able to actually have a family, enjoy your family, have a business, enjoy your business, and enjoy your life. The other thing that I talk about, the fourth thing, is called the Genius Think Tank. And this is where I really help people get into their mind and discover the resources that you have, that I discovered through many different techniques and tips and tricks to get the answers to the questions, the most important questions, the bigger questions that you have, because the quality of the question equals the quality of the answer. The fifth one is called the hiring the very best. This is so important because I remember I used to have a lot of high employee turnover. And once I implemented these techniques, tips and tricks, and the systems that I used, I had people that I retained for over 10 years, 8, 10 years. And it's because of the way that I explain what is the best way to hire people. And it's based on some things that I talk about there. And then the sixth one is you have to be willing to stay relevant. You know, what's going on in these times. You have to be keep informed and where to go to get informed. You know, the last one is proximity is a superpower, and I talk about masterminding. As you know, Pam, understand very well how important it is to have people that have made it, that are up there, that are doing much more than you, to associate with those people, and how you can create connections to make your business more successful. So those to me are, I pick those because I feel like if people can change one of those things, they could result or get um, create change in one of those things. They could get success to of $1 million and more easily. And they just get to choose one, pick one after they go through the program. And then the other thing too to think about is sometimes people come to me with a problem, but really that's not the problem. There's something behind that problem. That's the issue that's creating all the chaos or the imbalance or the overwhelming in the business, and I help uncover those. So it's really what the course is about. And then they get every week Zoom calls one-on-one with me, and we go over their intellectual property, and I talk about what I did and how they can go from there and be successful. And I love to see results. I'm very results oriented. I love to stay in touch. I want to know what their progress is, because it's more important to me that to see, it gives me so much joy to see people succeed just like I have. And I can't wait to be able to share those gifts more and more now that this is just started, basically.
Yeah, sounds like a great course. And to be able to have the background and your experience, you definitely want to, like you said, learn from the best, learn from you, someone, who's actually done it versus somebody who's talking about it and taking action. I also, here's your book here, Mindful Success. I, picked it up on Amazon and have been reading it, how to use your mind to transform your life. And just it's so interesting, your book, just reading through it. So if you had any to share, share about your book, that'd be great.
So the book is an interesting project because I've been wanting to write a book for 10 years and I couldn't, because I had all these things from the past that haunted me. As soon as I got to write, all these darkness, kept coming out. And I said, I'm not going to write a book until I figure this out. One day I decided to go into this deep meditation and ask why can't I write this book? And I felt, I'm not going to say I heard, but I felt something telling me that in order for me to write this book, I had to go back and speak with everyone that had damaged me, everyone who had hurt me, and say, I'm sorry and please forgive me. I'm like, what? So I literally picked up the phone and I started with my mother and everybody else. And that book was written in 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And it's really sort of like biography, but it also has inspirational stories there. It also has, energetic things. It has like things that from the spirit, things that I did with my mind growing up. It gives you a lot of tips and tricks. And I also quote big thinkers. And the thing is, all these things that I was doing growing up in the orphanage, I later read in books, but then I realized we all have access to this information. We just don't know it. But if you're hungry enough, it shows up. So I was doing vision boards, writing my goals when I was a little girl in the orphanage. And I talk about those in the book. And that's exactly what I did throughout my life to get more success. But they're basically stories of what happened, of my most impacting moments of my life that created change and how I grew up from those challenges into being the person that I am today. As a matter of fact, I'm working with Hollywood. They're doing a script for a movie about my life, so I'm, I'm very excited about that. It's just going to be another way that we can give the world more inspiration and hope to be better human beings and live the life that we deserve.
Oh, good. Yeah, I saw that Hollywood, was planning on. I'm so excited to definitely see that, so that'll be really, really good. Do you have we'll wrap it up here. Just wanted to ask you what one of your favorite affirmations is.
One of my favorite affirmation is the wealth of the universe is flowing into my life. It's pouring into my life. It pours to me in overwhelming flows of abundance. All my needs, desires, and goals are met for me instantaneously by infinite divine mind. I am one with everything. That's my greatest affirmation. I actually say it every morning.
Oh, I love that. I know I walk every morning and listen to a lot of meditation and affirmations. And, I really started doing that. It's too bad I started doing it more after I was diagnosed with breast cancer in October. And but it is amazing now listening to those before, while after I wake up and then in the evening to listen to more. So it's in, your mindset, but it's amazing how it does work.
I have several affirmations that I say before I go to bed and when I wake up, and I notice the difference of how you feel especially when you wake up to go about your day, the power that they have over your life. It's like I tell people, don't let life control you, take control of your life. And those habits, daily habits that you have that you can create for yourself is the deciding factor of whether your success in life is going to be real or not.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's been such a joy having you on, Maggie. I'm thoroughly inspired. I, really look forward to you next time I'm in Florida, hopefully to grab some coffee and or go out or you'll make me some fresh salsa. That would be great.
That'd be great.
What's a great way to, reach out to you? I know you're on social media.
Yes. So if anybody wants to talk to me directly, you can go to meetmaggie.com, and that's Maggie with 1G, meetmaggie.com, or you can visit my website at www.maggiecook.com. Again, Maggie with 1G. And I am on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I'm under the Maggie Cook name also, just Maggie Cook with 1G.
Well, thanks again, Maggie. It's been wonderful having you, and have a great day. Thanks again for all that you're doing and changing lives.